Not too red?
No,
Crystals aren't too much?
crystals are not too much.
Hello, welcome to Mind for Story, a super secret channel. Today I want to talk about Festering in Chapter 7 of The Good Place. A quick reminder, I'm prone to story spoiling, and if you haven't watched The Good Place through to the end, please do so before continuing with my content.
Lies are like tigers. They are bad.
Chidi is our prime festerer. I think you might have guessed that. So, festering, I'm not talking about open wounds at all in this episode. It is not gross in that way. For one thing, there are no festering wounds. It's supposed to be The Good Place. It would be a bit of a giveaway if we had festering wounds here. So when I say fester, and really I feel like I could just point to Chidi throughout this episode and you would get it, or I could point even to Michael, the way he behaves at Tahani's party, and you would get it. When I'm talking about festering in this episode, I'm really focusing on how a negative feeling or a lie, a secret, is actually eating away at somebody. That is what I'm sort of talking about when I'm talking about festering in this video. I'm going to start with Michael.
You were always there for us.
I shouldn't have been. That was the problem.
And not to be graphic, but Michael festers like he's in open wound, a contagious open wound. I know I said there was no open wounds, but his mood is like infecting Tahani, who is valiantly fending it off through her efforts at celebration for him.
It's warm and safe, like a bright, glowing sun.
Like the one I kicked the dog into, or the one I'm going to be burned on the surface of?
To be very fair to Michael, he is supposed to be pretending that he's about to be retired, which is not like a positive thing.
An extreme form of punishment. We call it the eternal shriek.
And it makes sense that he would be struggling to be anything remotely enjoyable. Now, sometimes the only thing you can do with something that is festering is to leave it alone, rest and wait for antibiotics to kick in and clear everything out. Nobody ever seems to have told Tahani that. Like, if somebody's in a bad mood, maybe give them some space. If anything, her parents sort of instilled in her this belief that she should just keep trying harder to please people, or hand everything over to Camilla, who will surely get the job done if Tahani cannot.
Here, try this.
Pretty dry. And too salty.
Proof that even just giving someone something they say they want won't make them happy. Okay, so let's say it's you, or no, it's me. It's me, the person who is festering. If I'm acting out like Michael is at this party, this is my way of saying I don't want to feel better about this. This isn't about my feelings, clearly. I'm not going to let you feel good about yourself over me right now. Like, bleep your feelings. There is no putting a happy face on this. Go away, you self-absorbed bleep. And considering what retirement is in Michael's case,
My soul will be disintegrated, and each molecule will be placed on the surface of a different burning sun. And then
it's understandable that he's not interested in celebration. This is what I would feel like if I was in, like, Michael's position. Now I'm gonna try and put myself into Hani's position in this situation. And me, I wouldn't be trying to throw a party. I'd be in hiding, full avoidance mode of the person who is festering. I'm not as brazen as Tahani. I'm not as willing to put myself out there as Tahani. Is one of the things I like about her. But okay, I'm going to try and imagine if it was maybe one of my kids, someone I wouldn't be afraid of. So if one of my kids was festering over something and was resistant to my every effort to lift them out of their mood, I think first I'd be getting frustrated, maybe even angry that nothing was working. And I think I'd be thinking that they're just choosing to feel bad right now, which fixes nothing. Wow, I'm seeing that I would be incredibly unhelpful if I went with my first instincts. Tahani is far more productive here than I would be, is what I'm seeing so far. So I'm going to try again. So I could ask one of my kids if they were festering. I could ask them to tell me what they are thinking or feeling, which that sounds better. Like maybe it could help the situation. Yeah, I think that's the thing missing between Tahani and Michael. She's not trying to connect with him in this moment. And at first it's because she doesn't know what retirement means for Michael.
My essence will be scooped out of my body with a flaming ladle and poured over hot diamonds.
But then after she's told, I think it's because she has no idea what to do in this sort of situation. So she sticks with the party planning because it's what she knows. And by doing that, she's prioritizing making herself feel better, is kind of what it seems like, by doing what she knows how to do for Michael without really reaching out to Michael, like one-on-one, to offer to listen to what's on his mind or what, is in his heart as he's staring down death. Yeah, I like that as an option. I'm thinking about how when I was like a grumpy, angry teenager, anytime someone tried to cheer me up, I'd just silently glare at them because they never were asking me what was going on with me or why I was grumpy or angry. And I basically was assuming in response that it's because they didn't want to know. They just wanted me to act cheerful so that my, grumpiness wouldn't bring their mood down. So I very much like this idea that perhaps actually trying to connect would have made some of the festering lessen.
Take it sleazy.
You got to say it?
Yes, but then you say it back.
No, it's not organic.
At this point, I feel that it's clear. I'm seeing the signs that there's something a little festering brewing at Tahani as well, just by the look on her face.
Michael, you mustn't blame yourself.
I'm not. I'm blaming you.
I will say, toward the end of the episode, Michael does apologize to Tahani. So while an apology might provide momentary relief, to Tahani or to anyone getting an apology, Michael's behavior, it did reopen an old wound, which is going to fester moving forward from this point on, because an apology isn't enough. An apology plus changed behavior would eventually heal things between them. But now Tahani is going, trying to make her parents happy and consistently being rebuffed. It made Tahani feel like she was never enough as she was growing up. And I've noticed this sort of paternal energy that Michael will turn on when he's talking to Tahani at certain times, and he uses it when he apologizes to her in this episode. And I think he does that to make it sting more when he does, then take a swing at her verbally. Because I think that makes it hurt more because Tahani's guard comes down before that. But yeah, so just an apology isn't enough. She's probably going to have some doubts or something just hanging out in the back of her mind when dealing with Michael moving forward from this moment. He would have to change how he was behaving toward her for that to, in any way, go away with time. And I think that with Tahani, she's had her feelings ignored in the past. So she doesn't see voicing them or talking about her feelings as an option when she's been hurt. Which is why it's that she can't say something when she's feeling something is when she festers. And it's a quieter festering than what we've been seeing from Michael or Chidi in this episode. And I think this about her because from what we saw, she doesn't tell Jianyu that she's sad he's not talking to her. She tells Eleanor and she tells Chidi when, she's struggling to connect with Jianyu, but she doesn't just tell Jianyu. And I think because it would have hurt her too much if he didn't respond verbally in a way that made her feel better. And she doesn't think her feelings will matter to him. And that's so sad. But yeah, so that's why this festering would continue if it weren't for the fact that Eleanor's confession is going to completely disrupt everything going on for all the characters. Because Tahani would continue to feel like she couldn't tell Michael when something he said or did hurt her feelings. So instead, she'd just let them create pressure inside her, and really eat at her.
And tell the truth, Do you like him?
Oh. Oh, yeah.
And here's a time where Chidi messed up. No, I don't think lying was the right answer, but this isn't an actual either-or situation, even if Chidi and Henry are acting like it is. Because really, it doesn't matter what Chidi thinks of Henry's boots. It does not matter. What matters is if Henry likes the boots. They're his boots. What matters is how wearing the boots make Henry feel. If it matters if Henry, wrecked his budget buying these boots. But that's for Henry to care about. And Chidi never had to say he loved the boots. He does say so. But I'm going to stay here a moment to play just a short game, one that I learned reading Refuse to Choose by Barbara Sher. And it goes like this. You think of as many other options as you can to answer this question, this either-or question that Chidi thinks he's been faced with, okay? Chidi could ask Henry a question about why he likes the boots, or he could say that he's late to get somewhere and then just run away without saying anything about the boots. He could launch into a monologue about cowboys or the boot-making business or any other number of things that pop into his head. Chidi could solicit opinions from other people, just random people around them at that moment, or friends or colleagues that he and Henry share, so that there could be more feedback to lighten the importance of Chidi's own thoughts on the boots. Chidi could comment on how he never saw the side of Henry who chose such bold footwear before, and, that it's something that I could never pull off myself. That's really cool. But really, the options are only limited by the person in this situation. So for Chidi, it's that he's sort of got himself stuck in this either-or, black or white, lie, the boots are great, or truth, the boots are terrible, sort of way of thinking. And so he gets tripped up very easily. Not to mention, he was put on the spot, so he's trying to think in the moment. And not everyone is good at seeing beyond obvious options when they are put on the spot like that. Really, the fact that this one lie plagues Chidi for 3 years, that, I feel like it shows a lack of, mental flexibility or elasticity. I don't know. He's experiencing no evolution of thought toward this lie about the boots, even as he continues to think about it. Instead, because he's remained stagnant on this matter, that is why the lie is festering.
Why would I tell Henry that I liked his boots? I don't like his boots. I hate his boots.
Chidi lets the festering of his conscience spill over and impact other relationships. We can see it's impacting his sleep, so it's probably also impacting his work. I do want to say, though, this relationship with this woman here is not going to be able to last. Her response to Chidi trying to talk over something bothering him was to say, this is why people hate moral philosophy, philosophy professors. This is not going to work. This is a Chidi feature, the fretting over moral implications of his choices. And every person has a feature that most other people want to view as a bug to fix or eradicate. And I'm trying to remember where I heard this. I can't quite remember. But people change when they are shown acceptance. And it sounds counterintuitive, but if you just think about Chidi, his girlfriend's response does nothing to make him get over his festering in this moment. He still is obsessed over his lie about these boots after she says this. When we do see Chidi become calm and decisive and confident, it's after Eleanor has shown him acceptance and puts a lot of faith in him. And yeah, other things come into play too, like Chidi gets all of his memories from all the reboots back, and he saw the time knife and other things as well. But it was when Eleanor showed him acceptance and followed his lead that he was able to start trusting himself. And, the other side of this is Eleanor accepts him because she felt accepted by him. Chidi made her feel safe. Alright, so anyways, back to Chidi further fumbling the boot lie.
Oh my god.
You loved mine so much you decided to get you your own pair. We can be boot brothers.
Okay, so this one is harder. It is hard to rebuff someone's generosity, especially when you care on level 1000 like Chidi does. But, Chidi puts on the boots, he walks in them, He could have gotten out of having a pair of his own by saying, like, they clash with his wardrobe, or saying that the heel rubs in the back, saying, I love them on you, but on me it's just not working. Or he could go full bore and tell Henry that he just doesn't like the boots at all. He just panicked the first time. You know, these are all options, but I'm like, I'm totally dissatisfied by these options myself. Like, just thinking of trying to follow through on one of these deceitful little maneuvers makes me a little anxious. A totally other way to go about this. So is Henry offering Chidi these boots because does Henry feel conspicuous wearing them? Like, is Henry struggling with some sort of insecurity because the boots bring him joy, but also funny looks from others? Or maybe people have been making jokes at his expense? I feel like part of the appeal of Henry's boots is that they stand out, right? Because they're very particular. But by gifting an identical pair to another person who works in the same place as him, I mean, it's either to show that you are connected, and he does, say Boot Brothers, and this has me thinking of, like, the Pink Ladies jackets or varsity letter jackets. Lots of jackets, biker jackets, basically to show that you belong to a group. But, okay, so it's either to show connection, or is it to try and get a trend going of some kind so that you don't stand out as much? So, like, instead, the boots mean you would fit in if more people were wearing them. I don't know, like, I feel like I'm getting to it, but I think that's what I'm getting off of Henry here, is that he wants the boots to mean that he's fitting in with Chidi, which would make telling him that Chidi doesn't like the boots a way bigger rejection now. And it makes Henry seem lonelier, seeing it from that point of view. So, of course, in this moment, Chidi chooses to fester after this. I get the choice here. It's not the only one Chidi could have made. We could play the either-or game over and over again. But I do see why Chidi couldn't go through with telling the truth that day. But I also feel like we're missing the point by continuing to focus on the boots.
They let you wear your boots in here?
They're the only things that bring you comfort.
So the boots bring Henry joy, which maybe should lessen the festering for Chidi. Like, maybe. I know it doesn't at all, because Henry's feelings aren't the thing that Chidi is festering over. He's festering over... It's his conscience that's festering because he lied about the boots.
Those boots are terrible and hideous, and I hate them.
My first thought was, how unnecessary. Henry did not need to hear that. Not right after surgery, possibly not ever. I guess the question would be, how else could Chidi have stopped festering over this lie if not by telling Henry? Because clearly I'm in boat, or I'm pro keeping it to ourselves. Like, I feel like Henry doesn't need to know, is where I've landed. So how could Chidi have stopped festering if not by confessing that he told a lie about liking the boots? So he could have shown more curiosity to Henry and why Henry loves his boots, maybe. Or maybe expressing interest in what else is going on in Henry's life, that these boots are the bright spot. Or, really, the festering is really self-absorbed of Chidi in this situation. Henry could use some connection. He could benefit from a friend asking him about himself and his life. And the boots did not need to be central to all of these conversations. Chidi could have been a better friend and asked Henry how he was doing. He did not need to make a mountain out of the molehill that is, these sparkly red boots. But all Chidi seems to really be focusing on when he remembers this moment is the immense relief he experienced after he told Henry the truth. Chidi festers all chapter long with guilt over keeping Eleanor's secret. Because now Michael thinks he's the reason the neighborhood is malfunctioning, and he's going to face some really severe consequences himself.
And then what's left of my body will be endlessly beaten with a titanium rod, like a
piñata.
Yes.
And Eleanor is trying to find one of her loopholes so that both Michael stays in the neighborhood and not retires, and also not having to reveal that she's the actual problem. Chidi wants them to tell the truth, but that would be dire for Eleanor, so instead, Eleanor asks Janet some questions, finds out that the train is the only way in and out of the neighborhood, and Janet is the one who controls the train, so the answer to fixing everything is kill Janet.
It's a perfect solution.
Chidi sees this as the further descent into deceit that it is.
And what happens after we kill her? We'll have to lie to everyone about what we did.
The reason he goes along with the plan is because of his prior promise to Eleanor, to keep her secret and to help her. I don't know, this is one of those cases in which Chidi keeping his word shouldn't be the top priority, maybe? But, like, he's facing sort of loss of life level stakes either direction. Either they kill Janet, who isn't human, and tells them that she doesn't feel pain, or condemning Eleanor to an eternity of torture. I mean, it makes it feel like Janet's loss isn't quite as big, but in the end, that's not even why Chidi makes that decision. Chidi he's so engrossed with how he feels about this deceit that he's been engaged in because he made that promise to Eleanor, and that means he is going to have to fester forever. After neither Chidi nor Eleanor can actually follow through on it, then Chidi accidentally kills Janet while trying to keep Jason from pushing the button that kills her.
What do we do, Eleanor?
We have to flee your crime scene.
The screen in the sky with Janet talking, it kind of reminds me of, like, video wills from movies, where a wealthy dead man talks from the screen explaining why someone is or is not getting an inheritance. And that's sort of like mixed with scenes from movies where there's been a break-in at a top secret facility and the alarms are going crazy. That's sort of like the vibe I'm getting from this. A lot of urgency. And I'm also remembering the scene from Pearl Harbor in the hospital during the attack. And there's one nurse, I think it was Jennifer Garner's character, and she's standing there saying, "I don't know what to do." That's what Chidi asking Eleanor, Eleanor, what do we do? That's what that makes me think of, that moment. And I know I've been in situations where I just didn't know what to do. Like, the most overwhelming moments have caused my brain to just freeze. Like, I have distinct memories of just my mind going completely blank when being asked to make a choice, or if I had questions in the midst of, one of the hardest moments in my life, and I was just completely out of my depth. Or there was a time when I've been rear-ended driving, and then I left the scene without calling the cops, and people then asked me afterwards in a really accusatory sort of, or exasperated way, well, why didn't you call the cops? The answer being, I wasn't thinking clearly. My mind went blank. And, it's after the fact, you can't really do anything about that. But I think I'm going to try and remember that this is what happens to me in my head in these moments. And when I'm seeing someone else go through something that level, that hard, maybe I can try and step in and help them, or do something to get someone involved for them who has some level of decision-making power in their life. Basically do something other than just stare at them and expect them to function as though everything's fine. Eleanor and Jason sort of take charge over Chidi after, or I guess sort of after/during the fleeing of the crime scene.
We have fun, don't we, Chidi?
I've never been more stressed out in my entire life.
Eleanor is satisfied that everything is going to work out. Janet is being rebooted and has to relearn everything. So she doesn't really feel like they are under threat of being identified as the Janet killers.
All we have to do now is keep the secret forever.
But Chidi is remembering the relief from when he told Henry the truth about what he thought of his boots.
I'm going to confess to the murder of Janet.
Now, this isn't boots. This is a much bigger lie to try and keep to himself than what he thought about those boots ever was.
This is going to eat me up inside forever.
Chidi, due to his promise to Eleanor, plans to let himself fester like a martyr so that he can keep this secret for eternity and keep Eleanor safe.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I assume that
Eleanor can see that Chidi is in physical pain. His festering has become visible to her. And it's what leads Eleanor to just give over to the inevitable.
Hey, I love you, man.
And I'm imagining being Eleanor in this moment. And I feel, oddly, like something in my jaw relax, and I can feel my shoulders drop once I've made the decision, because it feels right. It's like a relief. Because it was always going to get to this point where I was going to have to be found out. But now I get to come out on my own terms. And I love Chidi. I can do this to stop his suffering. Yeah, I feel like the good feeling is overcoming the fear. And it's an interesting sort of experience. You might want to try this one. This one actually felt kind of cathartic.
The problem in the neighborhood is me.
Eleanor isn't much for festering. She avoids it like the plague. She immediately, unloads onto Chidi when they first meet that she's not supposed to be here. We know in season 2 she keeps trying to confess to her new soulmate because she does not want to keep things to herself. She does not want to sit there and fester. And the only time I can recall that we actually see signs of festering in Eleanor, that she doesn't, is not her conscience so much when I see it. It was anxiety. The anxiety eats at her when she starts getting those mystery notes that we find out were from Jason. Usually it's her focus on survival, loophole seeking, solutions that keeps her occupied enough that she doesn't really fester usually, but she's also just pretty decisive. As soon as she sees what the secrets are doing to Chidi, she acts. She makes the decision for herself. She can't handle seeing him feel this way when she can do something about it, and she makes a choice. And I think that has got to be the most key to, not festering, right? You have to make a choice and you have to take action. This is the lesson I can pull from Eleanor. Decisiveness, taking action, is how you can avoid festering.
I was brought to the good place by mistake. I'm not supposed to be here.
Eleanor's presence in the good place she's led to believe is a mistake. Jason's presence is a mistake. And lots of mistakes in this story, including, Tahani and Chidi mistakenly believe they're in the good place. And later we see Michael make lots of mistakes in his ongoing torture scenarios. He has to keep rebooting the torture over and over because something about it is not lining up and people are figuring it out really, really fast that they're being tortured and they're in the bad place. And of course, Eleanor lashed out in all kinds of ways, both alive and not alive, when she feels insecure in the aftermath. And in the aftermath, she has to recognize her choices as mistakes. So my question that came to mind, Jason doesn't always recognize his choices as mistakes. So does it count as a mistake if a person doesn't think what they did is a mistake? Or for a mistake to be a mistake, does the person who did whatever it was have to see what they did as wrong? Because otherwise, if the person who did it doesn't see what they did as wrong, they're not calling a mistake. To them, it's a choice. They did that on purpose. Yeah, that is my question. Does the person who did the thing that was, mean or wrong or whatever, does the person who did the thing have to call it a mistake for it to be a mistake? I think the answer is yes. Because until the person says it was a mistake, it's not. It's a choice. Some of my takeaways, each character festers in their own way, but one of the sort of things that seemed to be true across the board was it has a way of making the person self-absorbed when they're festering. The more you fester, the less space there is for you to care about anyone or anything else. There's no space for you to be curious or genuinely interested in the people around you. I think it also really does make people more prone to either or type thinking. And it cuts us off to all the options available in each situation. So how to stop or prevent festering? So I think Eleanor had it absolutely right. She chose to focus on somebody else's needs. She chose to focus on Chidi, and she made a choice. When you feel like you are festering your conscience or your anxiety or anything, you're being eaten up by something, maybe try helping someone. Because that could take your mind off of the situation and off yourself for a little while. And the less you think about this thing that is, consuming you, the less power it's going to have over you. I also think it really matters what a person is festering over. The way Chidi festers, he lets his conscience fester over a lie about liking boots, which was not worthwhile torment for himself. Chidi festering over Michael's retirement, that's something that makes sense.
You have the string around my waist, but instead it will definitely be around my genitals.
Really having a festering conscience over a secret that you killed Janet, that makes sense. Those are things that, it's impacting people beyond himself in real ways. Whereas So if he were the stakes with the boots, Henry's feelings might be hurt that Chidi doesn't like the boots. But generally, I'm trying to think of where I heard this. I think it was the New Happy. Generally, a feeling lasts for about 90 seconds, I think, is what I read. But the stakes are not high with hurting somebody else's feelings about not liking something they're wearing. They might be upset or angry, and then it gets to the other side of it, and that feeling will either have gone away or transformed. Now, the secrets that are eating at Chidi right now, these are secrets that should be tearing somebody up inside if they were carrying them around. And the situation for Chidi sets him up where no matter what, he has no move he can make that will make himself feel okay. Because if he keeps his mouth shut, Michael dies. If he tells what he knows, it could lead to Eleanor being sent to the bad place to be tortured. He is genuinely helpless in this moment to stop his own festering. So it turns out Eleanor is the only one with the power to let Chidi out of this situation that he's feeling. You guys, you tell me if there's something I'm missing in these scenarios, some nuance that I'm completely overlooking, or an insight you'd like to offer. Please just go ahead and put that in the comments. And thank you for watching. I hope you have a really lovely day.
Chidi? Cheatster. What's happening, buddy? You have a crazy look in your eye, and you're retreating into your shirt. You're kind of, like, turtling.